Hello everybody. In this video, I'm gonna tell you guys how that is fixed wireless mouse freezing on Linux. So what do I mean about wireless mouse freezing? Well, for example, if you would be like, you would be like, using your mouse, whether you're gaming or just using regular day-to-day activities, and it just would go, you'd be using it, and it just stops and then unfreezes after a couple of moments. It's horrible. It drives you crazy. You can't do I mean, you can work with it if you just do some menial tasks, web browsing, but it's not proper. It feels horrible. I mean, let alone gaming, forget about it. Now, to give you a hint, guys, or I should say a quick answer to how I fixed it, and later actually get more into the specifics, well, in my case, it was the kernel. So if you go online and search for like a term like on your favorite search engine, like Linux mouse freezing, or like more specifically, I should say Linux wireless mouse freezing, because I did not have this issue on a wired mouse, and I have a Logitech G305 wireless mouse. It's amazing. I mean, I would not want to go back to a wired mouse after using a wireless mouse. You know what I'm about, fellas. So if you go online and you start searching for queries and answers, I should say, to this topic, I mean, I've tried so many things. It's like they say, it may have something to do with USB auto suspend. It might have something to do with Bluetooth auto suspend. I mean, I had so many different distros and trying and figuring out what works, what doesn't. None of that worked. I mean, I've used Debian, right? Because the thing is, when I got this mouse, I was using Ubuntu. Started using it. I plugged in the mouse, everything was fine, and then I started noticing that horrible freezing, and I was like, what is going on? I mean, I searched online, I couldn't find an answer. I was like, okay, maybe I'll just switch the distribution, which was it's not what I wanted at that time, but I switched to like Debian, I switched to like Linux Mint. I mean, anything and everything related to Debian, it would cost me the same freaking issue. I'd be like installing it, everything seems to work fine, and out of the sudden that freaking mouse would start freezing again. It would be horrible. I hated that. So I mean, I can't live like that. But then I used Solus. Tried using Solus because I read about it. I was like, maybe this distribution will work. If you haven't tried Solus, it's a great operating, I should say, distribution of Linux, or I should be more specific, GNU/Linux. So I tried it and it worked fine. There was no mouse freezing. I was like, what is going on? Like, okay, I'm gonna use Solus now. I don't know. I think I used KDE, and yeah, it was perfectly fine. Everything was working fine. But as most Linux users, I distro hop and wanted to try something else again. And in spite and just purely because of it, I was like, wait a minute. So you're trying to tell me I can only use Solus and not use any other Linux distribution because it's mouse freezing? Hold on a minute. I can't live like that. So I switched back to like Ubuntu, and I switched. I mean, I use Peppermint OS. I mean, I use so many different distributions. I would still have the same issue, but I'd be like, I don't want to go back to Solus. I want to figure out what's working badly with my hardware or whatnot, because like, as a Linux user, I can't just sleep well at night knowing that, wait, it works there but it doesn't work here. Why though? And then it got me thinking, wait a minute, Solus uses kind of a different kernel. I think it actually uses a stable kernel, just maybe an older version, compared to like what Debian uses out of the box, or like Ubuntu. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's kernel. And what is a kernel, right? A kernel, don't jump on me if I say something wrong here, but from what I understand, kernel is like something, which talks to the hardware, pulls out, the necessary drivers and, all this and that. So it's closely linked to your actual hardware. It's like the core. That's what makes Linux so amazing, as far as I understand. So anyways, I'm like, wait a minute, if it's the kernel, why not I try switching the kernel and maybe I'll not have the issue anymore? And guess what? That was absolutely the answer I was looking for. I had this issue ever since I bought this mouse. I don't know, I think that was almost a year ago. And I solved it not too long ago, and I cannot be happier, and I'm smiling from ear to ear here. Okay, so what do I mean by switching the kernel? So for example, the Ubuntu, I'm using Ubuntu 22.04. It uses, I think, like a, it doesn't use this the newest stable version of the kernel, but uses like some kind of iteration, maybe long-term standing. But you know, I used all the Ubuntu versions. I used Debian. I mean, they probably use different, you know, stable versions. But the point is, I could not get rid of, you know, the wireless mouse freezing just by that. So yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be probably using this stable. I should probably use like some kind of different kind of kernel. So what I ended up using, lads, is I think it's called I know how it's called. Well, wait a minute, Linux Zen kernel, but more specifically, it's actually not I mean, I think it's Zen. It's called on Arch Linux, and I use Arch Linux too. I did my feed in it too, and I used Zen kernel. It worked. So it's, you know, as far as I understand, it's the same thing, but on Debian-based distributions. What I had to do is I had to go to this page, right? It's a sexy looking page. I clicked install, and I just followed these instructions, right? Because on the thing about Arch Linux, it's rather easy to set up. You just you know, you can read up the Arch wiki. It's like you just, I mean, I think it's even easier than I mean, I actually did it. I just don't quite remember, but you know, you just selected restart, and yeah, it pretty much works right that. But yeah, the thing is, what I had to do on my Ubuntu Debian, which is, you know, Debian based distributions, let's be honest here, probably are the most popular out there. And you know, Ubuntu, I guess this is a good example for the video because that's what many people use. But the point is, if you use, you know, just Debian, you use this. If you use Ubuntu, I use this. You do this sudo apt thingy, then you install this thingy. It installs the Liquorix kernel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, once you install it, it's not enough. You have to set up the boot priorities. So when you boot, so the operating system uses the, or I should say, distribution uses the proper, you know, the kernel when booting. But that's beside the point of this video. I mean, there's plenty of material, guys, out there how to do it. I'm not gonna show you how to. And the point of this video was to get you guys on the right path and start thinking that, wait a minute, maybe none of those articles I read online mean anything. Maybe I have to follow this guy. Because let me tell you one thing, I've searched so much about this whole Bluetooth, wireless, mouse, freezing, Linux, on so many different forums, Arch Linux, not Arch Linux, I mean, Gentoo. I mean, they just, I mean, they did, I mean, it might, those topics, those threads might have solved the issue for you, but if you ended up on this video, you probably gave up and you're like, wow, I hope this YouTube guy will just solve my day. And, you know, this is where you end up with, because I did not find any single reference to kernel changes on any of the posts I read. All of them talked about USB auto suspend. Oh, maybe that's that. Oh, maybe that's hardware issue. Oh, maybe I'm like, wait a minute, what kind of hardware issue? It worked fine on Solus, man. How can it work on Linux, Ubuntu, and Debian? Like, what? I can't live like that. I gotta figure this out. So thanks God, I figured it out. It was a battle, but now I'm using Ubuntu for a while now, and a couple of weeks, I should say, and changed the kernel. I had not a single mouse freeze, that annoying, horrible mouse freeze. It works perfectly fine. I'm at peace. I love it. And the issue in my case, and it might be in your case too, the kernel. It might not be, you know, but maybe it'll get you guys on the right path. And yeah, it was the kernel. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope I put you guys on the right path. It's pretty simple once you actually know what to, well, once you know, it took me a while to get to this point, but the point is, if you try it and it works for you, well, you got it done. If not, then maybe those articles online will help you. But the point is yeah, I hope this, that this is what helped me. I can't title this video, how to fix wireless mouse freezing for everybody, because I don't know what will work for you. But the point is, this is what works for me. And this is how the video will be called. How I fixed wireless mouse freezing on Linux. Thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to check my Twitch. The link is in the description box. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.